Please ask for Nick Dickson, Ali Brand Barker, Dawn Apcar and Amanda Johnson to join us at the table, and we will try and save a couple of minutes that way. Thank you. Before we get to that final passion? Well, there's been plenty of that in the room today. The final panel discussion here for the Nenescape Conference Day 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome very much an honoured guest, a VIP, from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, Chris Starkie.
Thanks very much, John, for the introduction. Obviously, I'm delighted to be here as a bit of an intruder. I do have family connections. My late father grew up and to his dying day lived in Northampton, and always complains that the town didn't look out on the river. So he'd be absolutely delighted that the Nene is very much at the front of people's attentions in the town, and all the way up to and including Peterborough. But I'm here today in my role, not my day job, but my kind of volunteer role, like so many of you are here today, as part of the National Lottery Heritage Fund. I'm one of the panel members that sits and offers advice to the extremely capable and able full-time team, and we make deliberations and judgments on all of the amazing hard work in the application stage that you all put in, and then get invited here as if we've done something useful, when actually all we've done is said, yes, you can have the money. So congratulations really to all of you yourselves for the work you've done. So the National Lottery Heritage Fund, we're the biggest funder of UK heritage and believe in the power of heritage to create positive and lasting change for people and communities right now, but also into the future. And this project really does do that in spades. So thanks to funds raised by National Lottery players, so please go out and buy your lottery tickets, continue to do so. There is a bit of a worry with the cost of living crisis that organisations like National Lottery Heritage Fund will have less money to give out to causes like yours going forward. So we were delighted all those years ago to award a grant of 2.9 million to support this fantastic 5-year programme. And as you know, the funding's enabled the project team to uncover the hidden stories that have shaped the Nene, I'm going to get it wrong, Nene Valley over thousands of years. My father insisted on calling it Nene. I said it's the Nene because I live in Norfolk, so we're nearer Peterborough, so East over thousands of years, and reconnect local communities with the valley using the stories from the past that led to its settlement. And I have to say, I've been absolutely wowed, amazed about the complexity of the project. This is no small task that's been taken on. You know, if we were looking at this in committee today, we'd say, are you really going to be able to pull all those partners together? Are you really going to get commitment from the Environment Agency to work with you? Blimey, they're a difficult bunch to work with. I can say that in my day job, but we love them dearly in Norfolk with the Norfolk Broads and the Suffolk Broads and so on. So, and all the coastal defence work we're funding actually over on the East Coast. In case you want to holiday in a different place, I know lots of you come to Norfolk and Suffolk for visits. But an amazing outcome, absolutely extraordinary, and this is, I think, one of the powers of the Heritage Lottery Fund, putting some money on the table and persuading people to work together. But it's only collaboration from councils, from all sorts of bodies in the room. I'm not going to try and list them because I'm going to miss somebody out, so I'll stop there. But it's been really inspiring. I'm glad I came for the whole morning session. I'm just disappointed I didn't attend yesterday's because I'm told that was even better. Sorry, guys. And it's wonderful, of course, to see community engagement at the heart of this project. It's all about local communities. Maybe BBC management should think about that when they're the changes they're trying to wreak on BBC local radio. But it's about working with local communities and groups to ensure that the area will preserve the heritage. But it's not about preserving heritage in aspect. It's not about the past being a wonderful place and so on. Everything should flow from that. It's about making it relevant. It's making it livable. It's bringing people to embrace it, and the discussion just now about sustainable tourism. Well, you want people to visit, but you kind of don't want too many in case they wreck the place. Absolutely problem. We have a £5 billion industry in Norfolk and Suffolk, and that's absolutely a live problem. How do you encourage people to visit the Broads but not ruin it on the way? How do you all of that regenerative stuff? Really interesting stuff this morning. So the community involvement, though, is at the heart of it, heart of what we do at the Heritage Lottery Fund, as we believe everyone should be able to benefit from our funding. In fact, every project we fund must have the mandatory outcome that a wider range of people will be involved in heritage. It's no good a few hundred heritage enthusiasts doing a project and them being pleased about the work they've done. It's great if more people get involved, understand it, and can understand the story of their area. And so that's, again, one of the reasons I'm so impressed, really, with the number of volunteers, the number of groups who've been involved with this. And, of course, the passion. It's not just the planning, which has been impressive. It's not just the projects, but the passion has been here in spades. And, to be honest, given all we're going through right now, if we could just bottle that and just think about that from today, of all of the good stuff that this project has been. Now, looking after nature and helping people understand the importance of it has never been more important, and it is and continues to be a priority for the Heritage Lottery Fund. Some stats for you. Since 1994, we've awarded £1.8 billion to more than 4,000 land, nature and biodiversity projects across the UK. The funding's helped support nature's recovery, deliver nature-based solutions to address climate change, and reconnect people to landscapes and nature. And to be absolutely clear, this remains one of our key strategic funding priorities going forward. And in fact, at the last committee I participated in, within our Midlands and East region, we've just awarded funding for an exciting nature and landscape project, Coventry's Sherborne Valley. A bit like the Nene/Nene, it's the Sherborne is a little bit forgotten about by the people of Coventry. And this scheme, run by the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, will restore and revitalise the River Sherborne, which runs through the heart of the city centre of Coventry. It's one of the many exciting nature and landscape projects we're currently funding in the region. Though, of course, to conclude, because I'm conscious of lunch and you want to hear from the esteemed panel, all of this is made possible thanks to National Lottery players, thanks to them and you, because I'm kind of assuming you're all National Lottery players, and if not, just shame on you. We can make positive and lasting change for the communities we live in and the planet we live in. Every week, National Lottery players raise over £30 million for good causes across the UK, and none of this would be possible without them. So, congratulations to the team, everyone involved in the project. It really is a time to pat yourselves on the back. And I've been so pleased to be invited here, excited to be able to participate today, and grateful, really, to learn some things that I didn't know when I came in the room this morning. So thank you very much.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move to our last exercise before we finally break for lunch later on. We already have our panel up here, so we've managed to save a few seconds. Before we go any further, let's find out who they are, what they do. Each of them has 30 seconds and no more to introduce themselves and say what it is that they do for their projects. And I'll start over there with my esteemed colleague, Mandy.
I knew you would. So really quickly, I'm Mandy Johnson and I am the scheme manager for this lovely project, Nenescape.
Brand is all.
Hi, I'm Ali Brandbarker. I'm the Interpretation and Community Engagement Officer for the Nenescape Landscape Partnership Scheme, one of Mandy's wing women.
It's amazing how many people are taking a breath before saying Nenescape. Absolutely right. Dawn, would you tell us about yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Dawn Apcar. I have been the scheme manager for the 5th Continent Landscape Partnership Scheme, which has been based in Romney Marsh and led by Kent Wildlife Trust. We've actually just completed, so I'm scheme manager, but ex-scheme manager.
Thank you very much indeed. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Dickson. I'm managing the Brecks Fen Edge and Rivers Landscape Partnership Scheme. I had to think about that for a second, because we never did manage to come up with a snappy title. So we're on the Norfolk and Suffolk Brecks cross-border, and we're focusing on the river corridors in a landscape that's famous for being very dry and arid. So the water bit was actually really quite neglected. So again, wonderful opportunity to bring lots of people together, delivering some really exciting projects.
Thank you to all four of you, and with the greatest of respect, we know who Chris is, so we'll move straight on. You've heard there from different organisations, different individuals from organisations which are in different points of their journey, and I'll explain to you what Nenescape or Nenescape's journey is before very much longer. But we're talking about best practice now, for those of you that are perhaps interested through your own passions for LPS organisations. So let's get into the questioning on this. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end. Chris, let me start with you. From your point of view, from the NLHF's perspective, what is a landscape partnership scheme to you?
Yeah, so I think one of the stereotypes of the Heritage Lottery Fund is we're about buildings. We're about buildings like this. So I'm glad you try to impress me by having it in a building like this.
We try.
Yeah.
But actually, it's more holistic than that. So it's very much about landscapes. It's about understanding how heritage conservation is an integral part of rural areas, how landscapes fit in and have evolved over time, and how you can create a kind of holistic approach to the management of landscapes, respecting their past, using maybe some traditional methods and so on, but also taking account of new and future uses and so on. So it's very much about not having some sort of past that we don't want to go back to, but past that we're respecting, bringing forwards and so on. But across it's also worth saying it's a long-term process. I mean, we've seen lots of these interesting projects and so on. But I think everyone's recognised that this is part of a longer-term process and so on. And the idea of the HLF programme was to package some of these up and enable them to be done over a kind of medium-term period of time.
Chris, thank you. Mandy, let me come across to you next. There is a parallel organisation. It's called a community foundation. There are a number of community foundations up and down the UK. They do have a national voice. There is a UK community foundation. It's not quite the same thing with landscape partnerships. Mandy, we've welcomed people to the room from different organisations. We're delighted to have you here. Some of you have been on different journeys. How is it that you know each other? Is there going to be some kind of a national voice? Would something like that have perhaps helped over the last 5 years for Nenescape?
You said it in a different way than I prepared, so thank you for that. Let me just go back in my head. So, landscape partnership schemes. So I'm sitting here as a scheme manager of a project. I had no idea what it looked like on paper, what it was supposed to be, what it even meant, what it was about. Luckily, it turns out it's about loads of people working together and doing lots of jobs. So thankfully, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know that there are people that know things. And one of the things that we discovered in the development phase was this wonderful gentleman at the end here, Nick, who did his previous term in another LPS project called Breaking New Ground, and invited us down for a visit to say, well, this is what we're doing. And in the wonderful way that Nick does, he said, well, you know, we kind of gather every month or every couple of months to have a chat and you know, share what we're doing. And that was 6 years ago. Nick's now his next LPS because he's insane. Dawn is part of that gang. We had a handful of them with us yesterday who also came up. And in the early years, every, I think, probably 4 months, we would go and visit each of the sites. And that was invaluable because it meant we could go, oh, you do it like that. I didn't realise. Oh, you use this form. I didn't realise.
Right, so let me ask my question again, the one that you weren't briefed on,
yes,
which was, if there had been a national voice, if there had been a national organisation, would it have saved you time? Would we have achieved more in a shorter period of time? Learning from those lessons for the future, therefore.
Yeah, so that's what I was getting round to, is that when we first started, National Lottery invited us all to one space to have this introduction. This is LPSs, this is what we do, this is brilliant, you know, change numbers. And I don't know what happened. I think there was a lot of downsizing, lots of changes internally, and that kind of strand throughout the National Lottery, I think the funding wasn't there, or offices changed, and they weren't able to bring us together in that way. Okay. So I think the lessons we've learned over the last few years, and with COVID, we've sort of recognised just how important that is, and I believe National Lottery now see that as, okay, that's possibly something that can be introduced again, that them as a national voice can say, here you are, everybody, come and see each other, change numbers, work together, this is what's going on.
Chris, in a word, would you endorse that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the challenges, I think, for any applicant wanting to put together bids is knowing what does a good bid look like. How do you know that? And you can talk to heritage staff who are really good, but of course they're sort of the ones who'll be judging it. Actually, how can you work with the partners in other parts of the country who've done these sorts of things? Because interestingly, you're not, for bids like these, you're not competing with those other parts of the country. In the sense that there are different regions, so funding comes out of regional pots, so technically you're not head-to-head with another part of the country. And to be honest, collaboration is really important. So the reason I was flagging the Coventry scheme is because I'm sure and hoping that you'll be able to help them out with their project and so on. So collaboration is really important, and less so competition.
Thank you to you both. Dawn and Nick, let me bring you in. One for the two of you together. Has your relationships with other landscape partnership schemes, has that made a difference to the way you've run your schemes, given that you were ahead of some and perhaps behind others? How has that actually evolved for you, practically?
Should I go first?
Cool.
Okay. Well, if I start off, my role as scheme manager actually started halfway through our actual scheme. I initially came in as community officer, so when I took over, it was actually what is the scheme manager's role, because my predecessor hadn't actually been, should we say, quite constructive in all the things that we need to do as a scheme. So meeting and visiting the other landscape partnerships on a personal level was amazing, because I was actually able to learn from them. The sharing of knowledge was something which also really helped during the COVID, because when I took over, it wasn't long till we went through the pandemic. So the fact that actually I had managers who were at different stages who I actually could turn to for that support, understand the challenges that I was facing, they were also facing, and how we could actually look at different ways of working. So we might be having a meeting and somebody would say, oh, well, we're doing it this way, and it's like, fantastic. That's something that I could share. So we did quite a lot of sharing and borrowing. We're also being able to, as Mandy sort of alluded to before, going and visiting other places. We had a couple of external meetings, and I know sort of some of the managers came down to us in Romney Marsh, but actually having that collective group, it wasn't just sort of other landscape managers, but it's a real peer support group. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from meeting with other LPS. I think there was a core of about 5 of us. And it's also developing those relationships and friendships as well, which I think is an important part. You're doing a job that there are a number of schemes around the country, but being able to sort of connect with people doing the same thing is the immense sort of support that you can get from it.
Thank you, Dawn. Nick, you're not allowed to say whatever she just said. You have to add something.
No, I totally agree with Dawn. It's landscape and it's partnership, isn't it, in the broad sense. We're all doing different projects on different landscapes, but actually there are huge similarities. The partnerships are made up of similar sort of organisations, people with great enthusiasm, great skills, and we're trying to bring those together. We've got the support from the lottery who are saying, right, here's some money, go and do some fantastic stuff. They tell you to report on it, but they don't quite tell you what that report looks like, what sort of forms you should be using. So it's about, as Dawn said, borrowing that skills, that knowledge. So it wasn't me starting this up. I went to someone else when we got our first scheme, and I said, God, what did you do for time recording, volunteer recording? How did you do your reports? And he said, well, I use these for them. Well, if they like those, can I stick my logo on it? Yep, great. And I've just passed that on down the line. And that's been really, really useful. But it's been a great process. And we have our meetings to sort of have a chat about what's going on, what's worked for you. God, I've got to do some evaluation, or I've got to do some really innovative engagement with people. And these guys will say, well, we've done this and this has really worked.
Yeah.
And so, oh, God, do you mind if I borrow that? And you know, can I have the brief that you wrote?
So this is all very collegiate. This is true partnership based on, frankly, friendships across the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing for us, and coming back to the lottery support and then creating a framework for this, actually, for us, it was we never had an agenda for these meetings. So we would literally just put a date in the diary, we'll catch up. Right, what are you pulling your hair out about this month? Yeah. And we'd have a chat about it. And other people would pipe up and say, well, I've had that, and actually this really worked. So that informal process, I think, has been really, really valuable. And we've got more from that than trying to do it in a formal sort of meeting / sort of programmed way.
I've sensed this over the last couple of days. There's massive repositories of experience and expertise that have evolved organically in the various landscape partnership schemes across the UK. We'll come to the future in a moment or two, but let me turn to Ali. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know Ali, she hasn't just got an ology. She's got a master's. So we're in the company of somebody who really knows this stuff. Ali, you explored the role of landscape partnership schemes and their role whilst you were doing your master's dissertation. No pressure. What is it about them that differs from other heritage projects, from your point of view?
Thanks, John. So, in no particular order, they cover an enormous diversity of schemes. So a landscape partnership can be as small as 20 square kilometres or as big as Nenescape's, which was 200 square kilometres, so a tenfold sort of difference in the areas that they can cover, and as well in the finances that come with that, which don't always directly correlate, interestingly. They can be from £250,000 up to £5 million, so a fivefold difference in National Lottery heritage funding there as well. They don't even have to cover an area that has any kind of statutory protection. It doesn't have to be the Lake District or any kind of AONB or anything like that. They can just be an area, a patch of land which has got some kind of distinctive character, a feeling, something that people can recognise, which is really interesting. They involve organisations from all different sectors, so public, private, and of course the third sector, which I believe makes up a huge part of it. I don't think there's any other kind of programme of heritage project that can have something like Victor's wonderful river restoration work sitting alongside a community interest organisation working with disadvantaged young people to film a fictional feature film. That's the kind of diversity that we can have, and we can give such a variety of different opportunities across the board. And I had another point, but my phone's locked, sorry. And we have that freedom to deliver exactly as we need. We have, although sometimes it can perhaps be a little bit overwhelmingly free, we have the trust and the confidence from the Heritage Fund to deliver what the landscape needs. So in that true partnership style, we address those needs that the community deem the most important. We talk to organisations who then in turn talk to their communities, and we pull all of that like the roots of a tree up into the trunk of the scheme. And I firmly believe that all that complexity and that colour that comes from all of those different organisations working together is what makes landscape partnership schemes, again, in no particular order, truly beautiful, horrifically difficult to evaluate, and wonderful in terms of the different kinds of impacts that they leave on the people around them and their launchpad role into what comes next. There's no definition, there's no strict guidance, oh, you must build this kind of trust or this kind of organisation to keep this going. We do what's right for us, and that's a wonderful freedom, thanks to the Heritage Fund.
Who'd be an evaluator? Ali, thanks very much indeed. Chris, it falls to you to have the last question. Now, I did say that we would start looking to the future. The Landscape Partnership Programme, it's no longer a funding stream at the Heritage Fund. What has taken its place? And what, if any, elements from what went before have now been adopted into new funding initiatives?
Okay, so the fund, the Heritage Fund, used to run a number of different different schemes, and through the COVID process, through COVID, through last few years, there was a kind of recognition that there were probably too many schemes. It was like a baffling, bewildering number of schemes. We want more people to apply, not less. We want people to be more ambitious rather than less. We also want people not to be restricted into one bucket or another, so to speak. So the approach was taken to say, right, actually, we'll have a simpler process. We'll have small schemes, we'll have medium schemes, we'll have large schemes. It was as simple as that, really. So you can bid for 3,000 to 10,000 online application, 8-week decision-making process. We're trying to get more community-based organisations to go for those. Medium-sized, 10,000 to 50,000 online applications, same sort of timeline and so on. And then the large schemes. So schemes like the scheme we're celebrating today, the 250 to 5 million. So, and a development phase, delivery phase, and so on. So, and that really enables us, recognising that Landscape Partnerships scheme already is quite flexible. This enables you to be even more flexible, to bring in other elements that you might not have wanted to. So, it has to be said, it is truly impressive that you have, you have some sort of physical regeneration of rivers with tourism elements and so on. The whole piece, as you've said, the kind of complex pattern. But hopefully this will enable you to be even for projects to be even built broader. And to be honest, it's all then down to the outcomes, which actually were on screen briefly. The first one, the most important one, more people involved in heritage. That's a mandatory outcome. Helping organisations become more resilient. People having greater sense of well-being. More people develop skills. The local area a better place to live, work and visit, and support for the local economy. Now, all of those things, this scheme absolutely more than just ticked those boxes, absolutely nailed, or whatever the term is. And of course, environmental sustainability and inclusivity are two other themes as well. So it's a broader approach, hopefully a simpler approach, but one where we're absolutely sure that the types of schemes, the types of projects that have come through landscape partnership schemes are front and centre of the schemes we want to fund going forward.
So broader and simpler, and the checkbook, ladies and gentlemen, is out. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have funding. So, providing you all go out and with the caveat, we need people to continue with their spending on their lottery tickets. And we also recognise one point worth making is, of course, cost of projects. And we are acutely aware of if you'd got £2.9 million today, you wouldn't have been able to do that. That message has been received, not today, it's already been received. One of our concerns of the committee is what happens if people can't deliver because of the cost of projects and so on. So, yeah, we're open for business, and you guys are quite good at it. So please come back for more.
I'm very conscious of time. Chris, thank you. Panellists, thank you for time. I won't take questions now, ladies and gentlemen, because we will have quite a long time for lunchtime and for networking, and for those of you that are just joining us on the rails a little bit later on, you've got plenty of time to ask questions. Please do so, because in this room today, as never before, there is a massive resource of expertise, and we would love to share your experiences and best practices for the future. So please, can I ask you to show your appreciation for our panel? Thank you so much for that. The reason I wanted to do that in particular is because we are all on a series of journeys. And Nenescape's journey is in some respects about to come to an end. We are sort of on our final approach towards a landing next year. So before we get to that, before the flaps go up and we finally put our seatbelts on, what is it that we've actually covered today? We've talked about how past and present communities have shaped our landscapes, how through a series of projects, many of them passionately volunteer-backed, we're aiming to manage the landscape of the Nene Valley for the benefit of the communities of today, plus generations for the future, and let's not forget the wildlife of all. How, by embracing different tools and techniques to help us engage with our own projects and with the Lottery Fund as well, we can reach out and work together to achieve a common good for different audiences within the region of the Nene Valley. And when you consider where the economy is now going, when you consider the pressures that we've had to contend with COVID, That is really, really important. If we are truly going to be in recession for the next 2 years and longer, looking at what is on your own doorstep is never going to be more important or more accessible than it is right now. So whatever we can do right now is a massive investment for the future. Our partners and our projects have restored important wetland and river habitats. We were talking about that this morning. How they've invested to improve access to the Blue and the Green Valley corridors. How collectively we are supporting the tourism industry to promote the Nene Valley at my end of it, the Nene Valley at this end of it. And we are delighted to have been joined by fellow landscape partnership schemes to look at the impact of their journeys and the scale heritage projects in other areas of the United Kingdom. Now, what is going on for Nenescape? Nenescape. It was set up with a specific term in mind, and after its 5 years, it will come to a natural and planned conclusion. It's important that we understand that so that it doesn't just peter out. Having the opportunity to consider what we've done and what we're still going to do before we finally evolve into something different is really important, because the work won't stop. It will continue, as does the sense of partnership that you've just been hearing about. Under the banner of the Nene Catchment Partnership and hosted by the brand new Nene Rivers Trust, the Nenescape Partnership will continue to offer a forum to share knowledge and ideas, expertise, friendship, and if needs be, go about seeking funding to bring about and continue that positive change. Together, the Nene Rivers Trust will continue to host the Nenescape website pages and all the resources from the project that we have been so proud to bring to fruition over the last 5 years. The Nene Valley website will still continue. It'll be hosted by Northamptonshire Council as an ongoing resource for residents and visitors and Nene Valley businesses to embrace with the Nene Valley and the river catchment. For the Nenescape family, it's been an extraordinary 5 years to date. For some, of course, it's been longer than that because they were involved before Nenescape ever really opened its doors. We've been drawing on one another for resources and knowledge and experience and building what has become a sort of de facto club across the UK. And when faced with unforeseen challenges, and we all know what those are in the recent past, we've lent on one another much harder with new working practices, new working ways of reaching out to projects and to support each other towards the common good. But the Nenescape journey has been one of strong partnership, openness, commitment, friendship, all of which we intend to see continue long into the future. At the start of today, I mentioned that countless generations of people have together helped to shape the flow of the river, establish and develop the communities which base themselves close to it, to live and to work and to play and to share. Your displays, such as they are online, in public, in sessions that you may do with other people on board, really make a difference. They communicate what's going on right on our own doorsteps, and that really, really is very, very important. For over 10,000 years of celebrated history, we continue to look from the present now towards the future, helping successive generations to make their mark and secure a brighter, positive future together. And that word is really important. Change never ends. But if we embrace it for each other, that change can and will be for the common good. Thank you for joining us today and for this part of our journey. We may just be turning in towards the airport to come in for a landing, but we're not there yet. So thank you so much for investing your time this morning to be with us. We're not finished because lunch is more than just a few sandwiches. Lunch is an opportunity to share that experience with each other, to build upon those friendships, and to move towards the future together. Thank you so much for that.